we're back with another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from ISFF, Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us. Also, as well, please catch the Domination Sports Nation new episode covering what happened last week in the NFL playoffs and more. So go ahead and hit up the Domination Sports Nation, wherever you get your podcasts. And speaking of the Domination Sports Nation, one of the tag team members is here. One half of the Lardieri's, the guys behind the Domination Sports Nation, is here. It is Chris Sardieri. And Chris, action-packed weekend last weekend in the cold and the bitter snow for the NFL playoffs. Looking forward to some good matchups this weekend and carrying on the NFL tradition of really exciting football in the postseason.
Thank you, Gerald. Great to be back and appreciate that intro. It makes me feel like an old school WWF tag team duo there. So high praise coming from you. But
there you go. You know, I'm the pop culture freak, that's for sure.
Had to drop that. Yeah, Captain Lou Albano. I got to teach Dom about him. But
gosh.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. There were some dud games in the wild card round, but I hope the retribution will be some better matchups this week in the divisional round, which a lot of people think is the best weekend of pro football we have out there because the teams are a little more evenly matched, and you get football on 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. So let's hope it pans out.
Let's hope it does pan out, my friend, because let's just say it's what we need. It's good football right now. And you've got the surprising Green Bay Packers, who I really thought that Dallas was going to get over the schneid this past weekend, but they just absolutely got waxed for quite a bit of that game at home, embarrassed themselves with the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers now go into San Francisco to face off against the 49ers on Saturday. The other Saturday game is Houston. I'm not so surprised on Houston. CJ Stroud, really a just fantastic game this past weekend. They head into Baltimore to face off against the Ravens. So let's cover the Saturday games first, my friend. Let's start off with Green Bay and San Francisco. So when you go down to it right now, Love has proven himself to be an effective quarterback post Aaron Rodgers. We were not 100% sure throughout the season. He had his ups and downs, but when it matters the most right now, he is coming through for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and he's been doing this down the second half stretch of the season into the playoffs in January. So I wouldn't say it's entirely a surprise, although there are some in the media who, had to have their hot takes and bail on him when the Packers were struggling mid-season. But I think it's very impressive. And then too, just the irony that he's doing this well and Aaron Rodgers leaves. How about Matt LaFleur gets some props here? I mean, the guy underwent a lot of turmoil last year, the whole Rodgers fiasco, now starting a quarterback in Jordan Love with zero experience other than an occasional game here or there in his first few seasons. And he's got this team humming now. I'm not about to say they're going to be the 2000 Giants and make a Cinderella Super Bowl run, but the fact that they went into Dallas, won there, which I didn't expect either, and then made it on to the second round when, a few weeks ago, it looks like they were going to have to scurry just to get the 7th seed is quite impressive.
It is. And it looks like they've got a lot of momentum heading into the 49ers, who have been very confident in their play all the way to getting the number 1 seed in the West. So we'll see, or in the NFC, I should say. So I will say this right now, Chris. I don't know how you can bet against San Francisco. I know Green Bay has gone into hostile lands already and come out on top and come out with a definitive performance. But I really think Brock Purdy has got enough experience. He's been tested enough. And I think as long as they go in playing their game, I don't understand. I don't know how you can go ahead and bet against the 49ers.
I agree. I mean, I know 9.5 are a lot of points to give, but this is a team that actually needed the bye week. You hear, especially in baseball these days in the playoffs, that team gets the bye, they're rusty. Well, this 49ers team was banged up at various points throughout the season. And when they're missing Deebo Samuel, or Even Christian McCaffrey is banged up. They're not the same offense. So I think that can only help them. And I personally don't think the Green Bay defense, which has done a nice job here in their playoff push, I don't think they've got enough weapons to stop what the 49ers are going to throw at them.
In the other game on Saturday, there is nothing but respect that I have for Houston, an organization that has turned everything around from being a laughing stock of the league and the trades that they made, which had everybody scratching their head. The draft pick of CJ Stroud, who has guided the Texans on this really miraculous run. Do you think it ends in Baltimore against the Ravens?
I think it does, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if this team shows up, gives them a heck of a game. Can they pull off the upset? I'm not sure, and that's not an indictment on the Texans. Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, who's had a phenomenal first year as head coach, but I just feel like they've lost so many weapons, especially at wide receiver, that it's going to be tough to go into Baltimore and beat that team. Also coming off a bye, but I think that's a problem right there. Now, that said, I think the Houston defense is very underrated. Will Anderson Jr., a tremendous draft pick by the Texans, but I don't know if they'll be able to contain Lamar Jackson either. I will say I think this game will probably be closer than the experts seem to think or what Vegas is lining it up at. But I still think the Ravens will emerge victorious.
With the Ravens, I know they're eyeing some big things, and obviously the Harbaugh family is looking to go ahead and find more success in 2024, all the way to the Super Bowl after what we saw in the college game with Jim. Now we've got John leading the Ravens once again. I think what it comes right down to, I'm not worried about the defense per se. Defense, this team has been built around a rock solid defense. Their offense has been sketchy at times. Your thoughts on the Cleveland Browns and, excuse me, your thoughts on the Baltimore Ravens as far as it's concerned, and the Baltimore Ravens being able to go ahead and overcome whatever sluggish offensive issues they've had this season.
Yeah, and I know everyone's handing the MVP to Lamar Jackson. He had an impressive season, but I feel like this team, Zay Flowers emerged as a rookie wide receiver, so he's got that weapon there. OBJ's not quite the same, and frankly, their offense hasn't been the same since Lamar's favorite target, Mark Andrews, went out with an injury. I mean, I heard some talk this week he may be back, which is pretty remarkable given the injury he suffered during the season. But I think at the end of the day, and this has been the recurring story with the Ravens, it's a revolving door at running back just because their running backs keep getting hurt every year. So, do they have enough on the ground to pound and run clock against the Texans remains to be seen.
On Sunday, and once again, it is the Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glasser along with Chris Ardieri from Domination Sports Nation. On Sunday, we do have some other great matchups coming up for everyone out there. It starts off with Tampa Bay at the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, everybody's favorite underdog in all this, even though they've had a really strong season. They finally won their first playoff game in decades last week with just a narrow victory, a 1 point victory over the Los Angeles Rams. Tampa Bay, again, the benefactors of the weird quirkiness of the NFL playoff seeding, got the home game that they wanted, and they ended up just dusting off the Philadelphia Eagles rather easily. Do you expect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go into Detroit and be able to pull off the upset?
I do not. I think the Lions are poised to make a run here to the NFC Championship. They dodged a bullet with the Rams, quite frankly. But that said, I think this team will be poised and ready. The mood in Ford Field last Sunday night was electric, and they had that fan who's had season tickets for like 60 something years and finally got to see a playoff win. So I think that momentum continues. And frankly, just looking at X's and O's, I think the Detroit Lions have too many weapons on offense, and I think on the defensive side, Baker Mayfield's not quite used to seeing a pass rush the likes of Aiden Hutchinson and friends. And we all know the Eagles didn't apply much pressure to him last Monday night. So I wouldn't say it's going to be a cakewalk, but I'm pretty darn confident the Lions are going to be headed to the NFC Championship game.
And then the other game, because I agree with you on that, especially if the Lions can get that running game going with the two running backs that they have, as far as just laying the pressure off each other because they both can get the job done in the backfield. One thing that they do have to worry about is, can Jared Goff just find the steadiness in, I don't know, he just doesn't have to do as much. Doesn't have to do too much in order for them to get the victory, because with the running game, with the just the options that they have on offense, he really just has to be steady and not make mistakes in order for them to go ahead and win on Sunday.
Absolutely, and we saw that in the second half of the Rams game, a game which I frankly thought LA was going to come back and win, and probably could have if Sean McVay hadn't been so just, I don't know, lackluster with his timeouts. But at the end of that game, he punted to the Lions, dared them to beat his defense, and Jared Goff made a key completion to Amon-Ra St. Brown when everyone thought the Lions were just going to run the ball. So when he had to in that game, he made the plays. They came out storming in the first half, and essentially that's what won the game. They were able to take their foot off the gas a little and still control that game and win. So I think the even more remarkable thing is one of his favorite targets, Sam Laporte. Everyone thought was going to miss that game last week. I know we did when we recorded last week's show. And I feel like he's the X factor too. Goff loves throwing to his tight end, and if he's even healthier, I think that doesn't bode well for Tampa.
But I agree with you on that. Too many options, too many weapons. Amon-Ra St. Brown, again, two great running backs. I just think they have an up-tempo offense that really can take them at least for the victory this weekend. We'll see if it takes them further, but again, some great options for Jared Goff. He just has to be steady, and I think that will get the job done on Sunday. But the other game on Sunday is Kansas City at Buffalo, and this is something where I think a lot of people are looking to see if Kansas City still has some of that magic left, or has the up and down season for Buffalo really come around for them to be at their peak powers coming up on Sunday. So your thoughts on this, my friend? Buffalo has been on one wild ride this season. Kansas City has not been the same as they have been in the past, but it's playoff time. All things being equal, Kansas City has the experience. Buffalo does not have the experience getting over to the top, but it looks like it's going to be a good game in the cold in Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And the NFL, in their infinite wisdom, so don't let anyone deceive you. They don't care about football ticket holders. That game is for TV, and a 6:30 local time start in frigid Buffalo would not be fun. So you and I out here on the West Coast will enjoy it from the comfort of our home. But I do think this is going to be an excellent game. It kind of reminds me this time last year, the big matchup was the Bengals trying to make a run back to the Super Bowl, going into Buffalo on a snowy afternoon, and everyone thought the Bills had this game with all the momentum and energy of Damar Hamlin, the great story, and the Bengals just went in there and spanked them. Now, I'm not saying the Chiefs will do that, but my point is we have seen Buffalo lose at home, so don't think they've got this immeasurable home field advantage. These teams faced off once this year. The infamous Kadarius Toney lining up offsides game that Patrick Mahomes went, ape blank over. But I think the one thing to remember in that first game is Isaiah Pacheco, Pride of Rutgers, my alma mater, did not play in that game. And if he's healthy and running like he was against the Dolphins, I think that could be an X factor for the Chiefs in this game. It could determine whether they win this game or lose. We know the Chiefs D has been playing well. They did shut down the Dolphins. I'm sure the cold helped there, but I don't think climate-wise there's going to be a huge advantage for Buffalo. The Chiefs are definitely used to this weather.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is Chris Sardieri from the Domination Sports Nation, and me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for listening. Truly appreciated. But before we head on out, my friend, always nice to go ahead onto the lawn, whatever temperature it is. It's frozen out there, so don't slip out there on the ice, but don't forget about the dog. Dog needs some love too. Dog needs to stay warm. You want to make sure you don't forget the dog. So you want to make sure he's okay. So you go to woof, woof, woof. You head on over to the doghouse. Your thoughts this weekend on an underdog pick that you think might be a keeper?
Well, first off, we have to pat each other on the back. We ran the table perfect 2-0. You had the Texans, I had the Rams. So nice job by us. Will that continue this week? Remains to be seen. A lot of large home favorites in three of the games. And then you've got the Bills giving 3 to the Chiefs. That line's kind of oscillated between 2.5 and 3. You know me, I would love the extra half a point, but beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to take the Chiefs getting 3 in Orchard Park, New York. For all the reasons I mentioned earlier, I think this will be a close game. I would not be shocked if the Chiefs pull this one out. I know everyone's kind of written them off multiple times this season. Multiple people can't stand the Chiefs anymore because of the whole Taylor Swift factor. And that means you, Tony Dungy, you clown. But I digress. I think this will be a close game. And frankly, I know I said last week I could see the Bills upsetting the Ravens should they advance to the AFC Championship. But I'm going to hedge my bet here and say at the very least, I think the Chiefs keep this game close, take the 3 points.
It's so terrible that people say that, and it's like, okay, so you're not. So yes, she is a award-winning, multi-billion-dollar whatever superstar. So she is not allowed as a human being to go and see who she wants to see, or cheer for who she wants to cheer. It it's it's kind of, when you look at it, it's kind of disturbing that, okay, she is not doing anything wrong. It's what the NFL and the networks are doing. That's what's wrong. So fault them. Don't fault her for being attracted to someone that plays the NFL football for I don't know how much longer, because his brother is retiring. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We don't know how much longer we have, and so I don't know. It just seems very idiotic that you target her instead of what really needs to be targeted is the NFL and the TV networks and their coverage of this. And
Oh
that's all
yeah,
with
and
that.
and that's the irony. Tony Dungy works for a TV network that shows Taylor Swift plenty. I remember that Jets game at the beginning of the season where
Mhm.
they constantly showed her. So he's as hypocritical as the next guy. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, I'm watching Hard Knocks the other night with Dom, and even they in there had multiple shots of Taylor Swift walking into the game in the box next to Brittany Mahomes. I mean, they're the ones doing it, and I get why they are because there's way more people watching it. But it's not like there's some sort of exploitation going on, or there's someone shooting steroids in the box and they got to be showing that. So yeah, there's so many angles you could go on this. I mean, when back in the day, Carrie Underwood was dating Tony Romo and he was quarterback of the Cowboys. I mean, they'd show her periodically in the box, but there was no stink like this. I'm sure partially because there really wasn't social media like there is now. But who cares? Who cares, Tony? Worry about your miserable and mediocre announcing career.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Well said, my friend. Well
Thank
said
you.
indeed. It is Carol
Soapbox.
Glassford. And it's just irritating, man. Let it go.
Yeah.
It's not her fault that she wants to see a football player. Come on, give me a break
Yeah.
here. It's the people that are covering it. That's the issue. But before we head on out, I will pick my underdog, and that was actually, you stole it from me. I think the Chiefs were my best bet as well to cover. I think they have definitely a good shot if Mahomes gets hot, and the Bills, who this season have been all over the place, are not. That is very likely, can happen. It's the cold is not going to affect the either team any more than the other. So I think that's probably my best bet. But the one team I think I will go out on a limb for, I'm going to say once again, the Houston Texans, my friend. Who
Why
knows?
not ride the hot
CJ
hand?
Stroud. Who knows? Who knows indeed. But before we head on out, my friend, wanted to go ahead and make sure you give everyone the update on what's going on the Domination Sports Nation.
Thank you, Gerald. This week, new episode dropped on Tuesday morning. You can find us wherever you get your podcast. It's Dom Dash in Nation, Sports Nation. My son Dominic and I talk sports. I'm the Gen X proverbial old man. He's the Gen Zer who's young and hip and whatever else and knows way more than I do. This week, not only we talk about the wild card games, previewed the upcoming divisional games, the NFL coaching carousel. Dom and I give our best guesses on where Bill Belichick, Jim Harbaugh, etc. will end up. And then two, shout out to a certain Lakers Fast Break host who will be coming on our show shortly at a date TBD. You can find us on Instagram at Domination Sports Nation, or you can follow me on Twitter at Chris L Sports. Always posting the latest episodes on both.
Always great to have you here, my friend. Please go ahead and check out the Domination Sports Nation today, wherever you get your podcasts. Big shout out to Buddy Gold from Croc Radio, who plays on both our shows.
Indeed.
Hopefully, all is well. Hopefully, Croc Radio hasn't been snowed over. Any last thoughts, my friend, before we head on out?
Yeah. So everyone I know, like I said, Gerald and I are on the West Coast, and hasn't been too bad out here with rain and storms. But the rest of the country, snowed in, iced in, you name it. The thermometer going below zero in a lot of places. I think that bodes well for the ratings. We saw it last weekend. I still don't know how 23 million people streamed that game on Peacock, but if you look at the numbers, the over
And
the
don't ever
air.
give me that argument on Peacock, and don't tell me, oh, no, I'm gonna ban. Let's just do a ban on Peacock. Let's all protest against game going on Peacock. Don't even give me that. That's such a bunch of baloney.
Well,
You guys all watched it. You know it.
yeah, or you find alternative means to do it like we did. But regardless, I think what was interesting is there were less viewers or streamers, or whatever the term is these days, than some of the other games that weren't as good. So yeah, NBC did a really good number, but clearly, I'm sure there were people who had Peacock and invited all their friends over to watch it, and they're not capturing the real number. But I mean, pretty soon, Gerald, it's going to be like when you and I were growing up, and there was a big fight on pay per view, and someone ordered it, and everyone came over. My fear is that the NFL is going to do that with the Super Bowl one day.
Once again, it is the Domination Sports Nation. Go ahead and check it out today, wherever you get your podcasts. Well, looking forward to a great weekend in the NFL. Looking forward to more great fun that we're going to be talking about as we get closer and closer to the big game. Looking forward to it. Chris, always great to have you here. Looking forward to getting Dom back on the air as well. Looking forward to hopefully getting Joe and Sean here as we get closer to the big game. But looking most forward to you out there, both watching and listening, hopefully checking us out very soon and each and every time out right here at Inside Sports.